Hello, I'm Deborah Malone, founder of The Internationalist and host of Internationalist Marketing TV. Today's guest is Mollye Rhea, founder and president of For Momentum. Mollye, it is always a pleasure to spend time with you. I am so impressed with the work that you do and the time that you make for research. So once again, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much. And I am appreciative that you're a fellow data geek like me. I love research.
You put the thing that I love about your research, to be quite honest, is that you put it to good use from the standpoint of not only the conclusions that you draw and the trends that you talk about, but it's also useful to help people figure out ways to do their jobs better. And in my mind, that's kind of why we're in business. So that's a wonderful thing. So with that, you've just completed your best in class cause campaigns research, and this is only the second time you've done it. I believe you did it the first time in 2020 before COVID. So it will be interesting perhaps to look at some changes. But let's just start with the very big picture, because I know you've got so much to say on this. And that big picture is that cause marketing seems to be evolving from a fundraising initiative to a much more integrated business and marketing discipline. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I do think that's a great headline, really, for the story. I agree with you. I've been a practitioner in this space literally for decades and have been, have had the pleasure of seeing this evolution unfold. And really, back in the beginning, these campaigns, when I say these campaigns, I'm referring to cause marketing or social impact partnership. There's a lot of different terminology, but it's the 1+1 = 3 mentality of when you raise awareness and funds and resources for a nonprofit through collaboration with a brand, how it generates benefits for both. But in the beginning, it was a fundraising strategy. In the beginning, it was, 1 cent of your every dollar will be donated to a particular charity, like the refurbishment of the Statue of Liberty campaign back when American Express is credited with sort of the birth of cause marketing. And those still exist, and it's wonderful. And now there's new technology and new ways to make those fundraising successes. But the evolution has really seen us come to a point where companies are realizing this is an essential element of their marketing suite of marketing offerings, both internally and externally. So when they're looking at Marcom for consumers and customers, but also for attracting and retaining talent on their employment teams. So it's gotten a much broader place in the landscape than the original designed campaigns.
Interesting. And I think it is fascinating that what you say about the importance of marketing, or at least that marketing itself appears to be playing a much larger role. I mean, not just in communicating partnerships, but really helping to make them successful. And I guess that's where you come in with so much of the storytelling that they're doing, or the owned media, or just the employee engagement and collaboration. So that is an interesting transition. Any thoughts on that? I mean, as to why marketing itself, or do you think it's just the breadth of the initiatives really needs a big department who knows how to handle that?
Yeah, and I guess I was speaking of the verb marketing more than the department
Hmm. Hmm.
marketing.
Hmm.
But your question makes me think about one of the data points in the survey where we ask what are the most commonly involved team members in executing these sorts of cause marketing and social impact campaigns. So, list which of the following departments are involved. And in this particular survey in 2026, the number one answer on the corporate planning side and on the nonprofit planning side was marketing and communications. So, for anybody who may be listening from a nonprofit perspective is going to find that very shocking because these partnerships, the responsibility for these partnerships often live within the development department purview. And yet, the most commonly engaged employee group on the nonprofit side is the Marcom department. So it really speaks to a shift in planning, which is why we do this data to help plan, to really put an exclamation point on the importance of good collaboration internally around what you're seeking in the partnership, and then taking those goals and finding that through the partnership with the companies. So it's a big evolution, it's a big change. And so I'm really talking, yes, about marketing function, but also marketing as a benefit of these campaigns beyond fundraising. So raising awareness of the issue, raising awareness of the organization, raising awareness of the campaign, all of those play a role.
I mean that's music to my ears, but I also think that it seems to make sense because not long ago, an organization, a worldwide organization called the World Federation of Advertisers, came out with a term which was called, and again, it was called the green hush. But what they meant was that there's so many wonderful initiatives, and in this case, they were talking about sustainable initiatives that are not communicated or that they're not shared or they're not and that in itself is a tragedy. So maybe this is one way to get additional communications. But you said something else that I thought was very important, and that was the employee engagement and how it feels in this survey, like a real significant shift that really deserves a little bit more attention. Can you talk about that?
Sure. Yeah. So, it again back to the evolutionary comment that I made before with regard to these campaigns used to be a fundraising
Mhm.
strategy, and it was, ask the consumer to add $1 or a percentage of proceeds or something like that. What we have seen in this study, but also other studies that Momentum has fielded, it's this what I'm about to share is reinforced in those other studies as well, is that employees have become an essential audience that companies are considering when deciding to invest their resources in this kind of a campaign. So, what we know in general about the HR landscape, if you will, is that employees are not engaged the way that companies would want them to be. And that shows up in retention, it shows up in productivity, in job satisfaction, all of those things. And so companies are recognizing that employees feel more engaged when they are working for a company that they think is a good guy, a good corporate citizen. And so they will actually now consider nonprofits and nonprofit missions that they want to hold up based on the employees they're trying to attract and retain. So we even see, for example, I was talking to someone today about how they're really targeting Gen Alpha. So we've from millennials to Z to now Alpha because it's a new, they're looking for the 20 somethings. And so they're really considering carefully what is the right mission space for those kids that are, selecting their majors, and so forth. But anyway, so to that point of existing employees, but also future employee bases, they want to show that they are with it and that they are supporting the causes that are important to that target employee. And so what we will see is that what we have seen through the research is that will get awareness, that will have these targeted employees interested in that company. It adds credibility to the company, but it also, when they get involved and they are at the company and they see how the company is supporting and they can be a part of that, whether it's being a part of a walk team or being part of a special interest group or whatever the case may be, it gives them a sense of belonging. to that corporate structure with it, which then pays the dividends within the corporate goals of retention and teamwork and motivation and all that. But it helps the nonprofit partner through introducing greater awareness, more donors, more volunteers, more engagement. So everybody wins. But it's really a look at the consumer audience, but also the employee audience. External and internal audiences are now both important factors in the planning of these best in class partnerships.
I'm glad to hear that because so often people think externally and you really need internal ambassadors as well, as much as anything else.
Yeah.
It sounds like these initiatives, though, even though they're doing some great things in terms of participation, it seems like they're getting perhaps more complicated in that in order to work, these partnerships really have to move from simple campaigns like the one that you outlined that I think is still very important into trying to foster truly enduring relationships.
Yeah.
And I know that you do a tremendous amount of work on that. But can you talk about that or even share maybe it seems that some of these initiatives are really multi-year.
Yes.
And the successful ones really just build one year after the other.
Yeah, and I'm looking for my data point so that I can say it specifically. But what we have found is that, excuse me, in our benchmark, we asked a question about how long has this campaign been in existence, and we didn't even give them, usually you'll say 1 to 3 or 5 to 6 or whatever. We didn't ask that. We just said, tell us the number of years so that we could see. And what we have found is that more that the average lifespan is 6.5 years, and the average amount raised is almost $10 million. So this
Staggering.
clearly is not happening in a month long. It's, X number of month, it's national whatever month. And we did this 1 month campaign. You're not going to get those kind of results on a 1 month flash in the pan marketing promotion. So these really are much more integrated long term and they evolve. So they look at the activations and they add on more things each year.
And I'm sure that, they're measuring different success points. I'm sure that they're also probably trying to think out ways to expand this and to invest more and to bring it to life more. I mean that's really heartening because I think we as two women who have endured in the same in the same work community for a long time, I think we know that over time, not only do you experience more, but you gain broader perspective so that you can really enhance things. And were you going to say something else on that? The length of some of these and the complexity.
Yeah, another angle of the data, if you will, related to time. We
Mhm.
asked, how long were the campaigns in the marketplace? So let me just back up. I don't think we've said this in this conversation, so I'll just ground the data a little bit. That what we did is we went out to over 100 nonprofit organizations and we said to them, we want to gather input and data on your best partnerships. So think about your one best in class campaign and then answer a bunch of questions to help us understand what was involved in the planning, what's involved in the execution, what has been the success rates, how did you activate it, who were your audiences, all that deep planning data. So really our survey data becomes a planning guide that you can take out and use as you're putting together your plan. So one of the questions that we ask is, how long is that campaign in the marketplace? And so we provided a lot of multiple choice answers, 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 quarter, 1 year. And what we found is that the largest answer this time around was always on year-round campaigns. So these certainly have gone from a we're going to put a little spotlight on this and we're going to do a little promotion to we have this on all the time and we're constantly looking at new ways to activate it. And so
That's
that's
fascinating.
another
That
aspect
all
of time. Yeah.
that always on aspect. Well, goodness knows we live in an always on world. So why,
That's a really good
well,
point.
why not, right? Why not? And I guess now we're also at a point where we can keep things going, whether sometimes it's through the help of AI and those in communications or personal communications. There's lots of ways to keep things going. I love to explore whether the best cause partnerships are becoming a model for how marketing creates value more broadly. That would be very interesting. I know that may not have been exactly in the survey, but I'd love to know your thoughts about that.
Um, so I want to make sure I'm following your train of thought, and I always want to be careful and respectful of the
Mhm.
boundaries because
Yeah.
as a practitioner of cause marketing and social impact
Hmm.
marketing, and with my focus being so much there, I don't feel like I have a full expertise on the whole landscape. But what I will say, and I think this is a good follow-on to what you're saying. So we asked, again, the premise of the survey was think about this best in class initiative, and then tell me which are the different ways that you activated the campaign. Like, how did you bring it to life? And we found that leveraging the owned media of the company was the number one most common activation, followed, I mean, on the heels of leveraging the owned media of the nonprofit. Right. And so I think it speaks to your point about the value within the overall marketing picture is the number one best way to get the word out is to your fan base, to those that are following you and can really appreciate, the how this particular marketing effort fits within the overall marketing landscape of that company or of that nonprofit. So it's a part of the bigger picture and not just a standalone one-off. Um, and then third, right behind that, number three on this list was employee engagement. So it's the owned media of the company, the owned media of the nonprofit, and then employee engagement. So they are really keeping it within the family, if you will.
So it sounds. If there were one or two things you would like people to take away from this particular research, what would it be? I mean, you started by saying that the survey data, you really wanted it to be a planning guide
Mm.
for people. Um, and this is a survey that hasn't been done in 6 years, and it really is kind of a best practices guide and so on. What would you like people to take away or maybe act on?
Mm. So I think the first thing I would want to talk about is the importance of internal collaboration, you know, between the various departments, right? And so within the nonprofit structure, when I look at the nonprofit individuals that are executing these campaigns, 9 times out of 10 or 99.5 times out of 10, they are a department that is responsible for fundraising. They're a development function. And if they don't consider carefully in the planning process how they're going to bring in their marketing colleagues, they're missing the boat. Excuse me. And so I want them to think about the fact that if they are going to do a really good job, they can't do it in a silo. And the same thing for the corporation in terms of, if you're not looking at the way that this investment is going to pay back across many of your different corporate objectives, you're missing an opportunity because of what we've said already. It can pay dividends with your current fan base. It can help you attract new ones, and your employees are a whole nother topic. So it really, to fully maximize this investment, first you need to begin with your internal planning and looking for all the ways and the inroads and the places that this can pay dividends so that when you go to the partnership table, you're making sure that those benefits are going to get addressed in the planning.
I think that's very wise advice, and it really shows how it can be a win-win for everybody. And I think we talked a little bit earlier that it can be a win for the companies, the nonprofits and the for-profits, the collaborative companies, for any particular brand involved, and of course for the employees, although laddering up to doing more for a community.
Mhm.
And I think that is what the ultimate goal is, to do as much as possible for the cause and activate it within the community through the help of others. And that I think the lessons that you offer and the degree of detail, I really highly, and we'll do a link to your survey as well, because I think the degree of detail that you offer is really a roadmap for a lot of people, and I think that's key.
Well, thank you so much. I'm glad you find it of value and it's a labor of love. So we want to try to get it in the hands of people who can use it to make better decisions.
Well said, and congratulations for you to not only doing it, but also having that as your own mission. So thank you, Molly. All right, well, to be continued, I hope, because I'm always intrigued by your research, and I do think that it serves the community so well in terms of helping them. So congratulations one more time.
Thank you so much.
The Internationalist focuses on the continual reinvention of marketing by highlighting inspirational marketers around the world and their ideas as they move the industry forward. Internationalist Marketing TV shares these perspectives through interviews and personal stories. Thanks so much for watching. If you find this kind of content helpful, please click like or subscribe. Again, thanks so much.